lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. Amen. Thank you.
Please stand and join in the Pledge of Allegiance. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, gentlemen. I appreciate that. We'll move on to item 1, approval of the agenda. Any questions or comments on the agenda? If not, I'll entertain a motion to approve it.
Mayor, I'll go ahead and make a motion that we approve the agenda as is.
Thank you.
I'll second that motion.
Thank you. I have a motion and a second.
Ivy, aye.
Granger, aye.
Bellis and I.
Knights and I.
Turek, aye.
Thank you. We do have one announcement. I'd like to read a proclamation to promote underage drinking prevention in Washington County. Whereas Washington County Prevention Coalition and the Washington County Youth Coalition have designated the upcoming school year as an alcohol-free year for youth, sponsored by Parents Empowered. A school year to set clear rules and expectations about no underage drinking, whereas alcohol used by those under the age of 21 negatively affects their health and safety, and thus the safety and well-being of all those living and working in the communities of Washington County. And whereas underage drinking is a major public health problem that negatively impacts the brain development of our young people, causing a higher probability of early alcohol addiction, alcohol-related traffic accidents, and brain impairment. And whereas under the law, it is illegal for a minor to purchase, possess, or consume any alcoholic beverage, and it is illegal and punishable for anyone to sell, offer to sell, or furnish alcohol to a minor. And whereas the mayors of St. George City, Washington City, Hurricane City, Ivan City, and Santa Clara City, in addition to the commissioners of Washington County and the state of Utah, are committed to the development of a major statewide public information campaign with the overall objectives of changing social norms regarding underage drinking. And whereas we commend the overwhelming majority of our young people who are drug and alcohol free. We desire all of our youth to be drug and alcohol free so as to develop in a healthy society. And now, therefore, we as mayors and commissioners hereby proclaim our support and offer an invitation to the entire community to help reduce underage drinking in order to improve the health and safety of all youth and adults in Washington County. We invite all members of our community, including individuals, families, governments, schools, religious and civic organizations, to participate in and sponsor activities that will heighten awareness regarding the dangers of underage drinking to young people's health and safety, and will strengthen their ability and desire to refuse to drink alcohol. And whereas we declare the year 2017-2018 school year as an alcohol-free school year for youth, to bring to awareness to underage drinking and promote the bringing of families together. This proclamation is issued on the 23rd day of August, 2017. Thank you for allowing me to read that. We'll move on to.
One other.
Oh, that's right. On the 29th of August, from 4:30 to 7:30, we are having a public scoping meeting at the Washington City Elementary to evaluate the transportation needs in Washington City. We invite all citizens of Washington City to attend that. It's from 4:30 to 7:30. The address is 300 North, 300 East. That should be easy to remember. So we want all your invitation and all your input. So thank you very much on that. Anything else to add on that?
Mayor, that's just kind of an open house format, so it isn't having to be there for 3
Right.
hours. It's come and go as you need, and they'll have a lot of information available. They're looking for a lot of public input. That's the main thing that we're looking for here is input from our citizens of our traffic needs throughout the community. So would hope that everybody can participate in that.
Thank you, Councilman Turk. All right, we'll move on to item 3 then, declaration of abstentions and conflicts. Any to declare at this time? We'll move on to item 4, our consent agenda. Consideration to approve the minutes for the meeting of 8/8/17 and 8/9/17. You had a chance to look over those. Any questions or comments on those meetings?
Mayor, if there's none, I'll go ahead and make the motion that we approve the consent agenda, which consists of the minutes of our 8/8/17 meeting and our 8/9/17 meetings.
Thank you.
Second.
Motion and a second.
Turek, aye.
Nice night.
Ellison, aye.
Granger, aye.
Ivy, aye.
Thank you. That is approved. Item 5, special event. Consideration to approve a special event for the American Legion Day held at the Veterans Park here in Washington on September 16, 2017 from 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. Pam, are you here to give us an update and an invitation?
Absolutely. I think you already accepted.
Yeah.
Good evening, Mayor, City Council, City Manager, and City Attorney. Thank you for allowing me to be here today. I was here representing the St. George Area Chamber of Commerce, your chamber, about a month ago, I guess now. And I'm here representing our American Legion. I am their financial officer and also their event coordinator. And I'm representing Marty Bigby, who has asked, she's our regional commander, has asked for this day for Veterans Park. At the park, and I understand we have, Wendy sent me some paperwork that was already signed, but we're asking for the park to be used for American Legion Day and also for the water to be turned off on 9/15. The day will consist of posting of colors, mayoral speeches, singing from Riverside Elementary, JROTC, Academy Drill Team, the state champions, which are our baseball team, our American Legion baseball team, the Sentinels, will be there, and our scouts will be there for burning of the flags. So I've spoken with
And that's
Chief
a good thing.
Evans.
That's not a bad thing.
That's it. That's
Okay.
We do it not only properly, it'll bring tears to your eyes. So if you've never seen that done, it really is a commencement, and you need to come see it. So we're asking for that day for that park.
Great.
Any questions?
Any questions, comments from the council?
Veterans Park's probably the right venue, but it's also under construction.
Right.
So is that going to be an issue?
No, we've looked at it and we know that. We just held movies in the park there on Friday. Lots of people. It's great. We can still use it for that. Yeah.
Okay.
The gazebo's usable, I'm sure, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Might have to use a porta potty.
I did see that. Those potties are gone, right? They disappeared, I
Yeah.
noticed.
When they get resurrected, they're going to be a lot nicer.
That's
Yeah.
right. We'll have doors.
Yes.
That'll be nice.
These are already a lot nicer.
I see on the agenda it says 2016, but I think
it
it's
does.
2017.
It truly is 2017. My apologies.
No worries. So from 9 to 3, in the letter from Marty, it was 10 to 2. But
10 to 2, so we're saying set up an hour
Okay.
before and then tear
All right.
down, clean up. So we'll make sure we leave it how we found it.
Okay.
My only, not relative to this specifically, is that we're keeping track of the things that we're allowing the park use for free again, so that we know how much of that we're doing.
Okay.
Okay.
So noted. Thank you.
Mayor, with that all being said, I can't think of a more appropriate park for this event to be held, so I'll make the motion that we approve a special event at our Veterans Park for American Legion Day to be held on September 16th, 2017 from 9 a.m. to 3 p.m.
I'll second that.
I have a motion and a second.
Ivy, aye.
Granger, aye.
Ellison, aye.
Nice night.
Turek, aye.
Thank you. We look forward to seeing you, Pam.
Thank you very
Thank
much.
you.
Please come out and join us.
We will.
Thank you.
Thank you. Item 6, primary election canvassing. Consideration to approve the canvassing for the Washington City 2017 primary election. City Recorder.
Good evening. Okay, since our elections, the night of our elections, we had a few provisionals that we had to count that night, and it's all included in the report that I gave you guys. There's breakdowns into precincts and areas and everything else. Would you like me to go into all those breakdowns, or should we just hit the highlights here?
I would think
Anyone?
probably just the total overall is probably most appropriate.
All right, great. So as I read the totals, it's as the way the state has them listed, not in alphabetical order or in total votes. So Garth E. Nyson was 633 votes, Kurt E. Iverson, 684, Doug Dennett, 248, Daniel Clough, 594, Doug Ward, 612. We have registered voters of 11,098. We only had 1,478 participate in our primary election, which is a 13%, just a little over 13% turnout. So,
I think that's still better than St. George. though.
yeah, theirs was really quite a low
We were
turnout.
About 11% or so.
Yeah, we were ahead of them on early voting. Our totals were much percentage-wise a lot higher than theirs. Is there any questions at all? Everything went great. We used the machines by ES&S, which were amazing. Power went down here twice and not even a glitch. Everything ran beautiful.
I sure appreciate, and I'm sure you convey that to those people that volunteer their time to do that. I know they do year after year,
They do
volunteer.
amazing work for us. They
Yeah,
really do help us.
Appreciate them.
Yeah, please tell them thanks for all of us.
I
On
will.
behalf of,
You bet.
thank you, Denise.
Without further discussion, Mayor, I'll make a motion that we approve the canvassing for the Washington City 2017 primary election.
I'll second that motion.
Thank you. I have a motion and a second.
Turdick, aye.
Nice night.
Fellas, and I.
Granger, aye.
IBI.
Thank you. That is approved. Item 7, preliminary plat. Item A and 7, consideration to approve the preliminary plat for the Brio Phase 2 development located approximately Villa del Sol and Rialto Parkway. Applicant Reed Scow.
Thank you, Mayor. As stated, the request is for approval of the preliminary plat for Phase 2 of Brio. The applicant is proposing 88 lots on an area coverage of 24.52 acres. The zoning at this particular area location is the Brio Planned Community Development, or PCD. The surrounding zoning to this particular subdivision proposal is PCD, every direction, northeast, south, and west. The proposed subdivision conforms to the approved zoning. Request meets the subdivision requirements and other ordinances at this particular spot, and staff's reviewed the request, recommends approval with conditions. And the Planning Commission reviewed this at their August 2nd meeting of 2017, and the Planning Commission unanimously recommended approval of the preliminary plat for Brio Phase 2 subdivision onto the City Council, and it has basically the standard 11 conditions that go with a preliminary plat. So I'll be glad to answer any question that the council might have on Phase 2.
Any questions for Drew on this? Any questions for the developer?
I know stormwater is always an issue. Was anything brought up that,
Stormwater?
yeah,
Yeah, and again, this particular, actually, the whole PC went through kind of a they had to come in when they got their zoning to kind of tell us roughly where most of the water is going to go, and then we make them get into an in-depth plan, and everything goes through. Again, that's one of the conditions, that everything's taken care of before we do actually sign. In fact, that's the first condition we put on there, is that an extensive drainage plan will come forth. They've already done a tentative approval one. We're fine with where it's going and how it's going to be gathered, and so we'll get that during construction drawings, exactly the nuts and bolts of exactly what's going to happen on that. So,
Is a geotechnical study, is that part of the process now? Is it just standard, or is it something that's requested?
it's party standard. They have to bring one in for every lot anyway. Every lot has to be pad certified, and so they'll look at those things, generally on that. So.
Just a comment, Drew, I'm appreciative to see that they have got that golf cart trail access over across and into to get to our golf course. I certainly appreciate them working on that, and glad to see that as part of their development.
Yeah, I know Barry's been working hand in hand with them to try to get
glad
that.
to see that. I think that'll be a great enhancement to both their development, hopefully to our golf course.
Hopefully there is a lot of golfers in there. So.
They're gonna jump on the course path and take that down to the clubhouse.
Down to the clubhouse,
Yeah,
correct.
and they're still working on the nuts and bolts of exactly how they're gonna, if they're gonna use fairway or if they're gonna come over and either make a path for it. I'm not sure. And we're gonna designate a cart path on each side, and so that'll get them safely down and back to the clubhouse. So.
I hope we keep close track, some data, and see if when that all happens, if that enhances our usage of the golf course.
Well, I think for people watching, the lack of discussion is, we've seen the overall layout multiple times, so there's not a lot of questions at this point. Barring any further discussion, I'll make the motion that we approve the preliminary plat for the Brio Phase 2 development located approximately via Del Sol and Rialto Parkways.
I'll second it.
I have a motion and a second.
Ivy, aye.
Granger, aye.
Bellis and I.
Nice night.
Eric, aye.
Thank you. That's approved. Item B, consideration to approve the preliminary plat for Brookwood, located approximately 900 north, 600 west. Applicant Stephen Howcroft.
I want to make note that all you got, hopefully, the updated map this afternoon. We sent one out that got fixed after the approval by the Planning Commission. So look for the one that says exhibit updated for the preliminary of Brookwood on your iPads. We'll be using that tonight. And I'll kind of go to there, how we got to that point. So this item was tabled at the Planning Commission's July 19th meeting. The Planning Commission's having the applicant revise the map changes and discussed during the meeting of the 19th. And they had that, actually was on, I think 2 weeks prior to that was the original date that it came in. And so it got bumped back a little bit to put some new changes on there. We were concerned at that time about lots 4, 5, and 6 and the FEMA floodplain boundary, and they've adjusted that. So if you look over, I'll just briefly point out that now you can see that lots 4, 5, and 6 actually follow that blue dotted line. They actually had part of the lots going out a little beyond it, and the Planning Commission just felt it was important to maybe get 4, 5, and 6 just to follow that line. So that came back and was fixed. They also talked about the area between lots 11 and 12 that went down in. Originally, there was nothing put on there, and so you can see that it's been added. Common area for the HOA to maintain. That was one of the issues of the original tabling. They also talked about lots in between 17 and 18. It was just a path for an easement to get through, but the Planning Commission and staff wanted this to be a stub road over to the Behunin parcel to give them access to that. And so those things were taken care of after that particular tabling. When the request came back and the Planning Commission met on it on their August 2nd meeting. Well, let me get back to the original report, I guess, and then we'll discuss the things that took place on the 2nd. The applicant requested at the original time a preliminary plat for Brookwood. The applicant was proposing 37 lots. The area coverage was 18.986 acres. The zoning at that particular area was previously approved by the Planning Commission City Council and was given the designation of a single-family residential 8,000 square foot R18 designation, and the lots met that. The surrounding zoning was the Brio PCD to the east, open space, which is actually where the Montessori school is, to the west and a bit to the north. And then R115 directly across the creek was the other zoning surroundings. The preliminary plat approval request is follow up, as I stated, about the approved R18 zoning designation. So after review, the staff was fine with the layout of the subdivision. It came forth and went to the Planning Commission. The Planning Commission, again, after their tabling, reviewed it on their August 2nd meeting. The Planning Commission, by a vote of 3-2, recommended approval of the preliminary plat for the Brookwood subdivision based on the findings and subject to the conditions. Now, within that, the conditions that were changed, and this is the updated map that I want to get to, are basically number 12, 13, 14, and 15 that have all been addressed on this map. And they were part of the motion in the minutes, is that preliminary drainage study submittal shows detention in the area, this open space area. If any work is proposed within the floodplain, a floodplain development permit will be required. Now, this is that particular area that's dotted coming down within there, and they'll abide by that.
Did the homes on the other side of that have floodplain permits?
They probably didn't have to because they're all out of the floodplain. When you see that dotted blue line, I don't think any of those homes is on the, in this particular, on the top of that blue line. The floodplain is in between those two dashed blue lines. And I don't think any of the homes in Buena Vista, are even near that line.
They don't encroach into it, but it is
no, because they're sitting up,
but differently, it is their property.
It is. And we do that. And in fact, you can own down into a floodplain. It's just if you build in it, you have to do some certain mitigation that FEMA sets up. So that they're keeping their, this Brookwood is completely out of it. There's no question. None of the buildable lots are even in it at all. They won't ever have to worry about the floodplain
It's a
issues.
little different on.
Yeah.
Okay.
And because none of their parcels, and that's even why we changed those property lines on 4, 5, and 6 I referenced earlier. Just took out, they had little bits, that were over there. Planning Commission just felt, let's just follow the floodplain line, and that'll be your lot line. So there won't be any issue with that for them. Number 13, that all open spaces on the plat be labeled and marked as not to be disturbed, excluding the 24-foot wide access road and detention base area. So again, anything down in the open space, and that's why you can see with their, with the way they labeled it was open space, and then under is no disturb. Now they did point out there's that 24-foot area that heads down in between lots 10 and 11 that will, best of their knowledge, make their way, and they're only doing that so if they have to go in and service the detention area, that they can get down, first of all, build it, and be able to get and service it over time. So that can be disturbed.
During construction, though, they'll fence that off and not go outside of that 24-foot zone.
Right. Well, they'll have to establish that 24-foot thing to get down to that detention. When their construction drawings come back, it'll get right down to
their
where
drainage is going to be subterranean, right? Piped down into the detention basin, correct?
Yes, down into there, and then it'll then flow as its natural course did down the creek.
Okay.
So, but again, only at current flows that they are now. So that's why the detention pond is necessary. Number 14, the rock shelves located within lot number 4 and 14. I'll point those out. There's a little bit of them. You can see here that brown line. There's a shelf that runs through the lot. And then on lot number 18 or 14, you have this particular brown one here that goes in. So that's what note 14 is about. To be labeled and not to be disturbed.
Even though it's within the property lines of those ones.
Yeah, and that was the thing that the Planning Commission, the developer,
was there.
Yeah, agreed on, that with those particular ones, because they're so prominent, and those are the two, at least in the lot area, they didn't want those to be disturbed. The developer was fine with doing that. So.
Is there a reason they didn't just move the lot line?
I don't know. There might have been, and probably just for.
Because they look like they're large enough that they don't.
They wouldn't have to. That's true. But like I say, This just came back because they'd already laid out their lots, I think, and then the shelf, the appearance of those rock shelves came in after the fact. And so I guess the planning commission just felt that it was just more, well, we'll just say that they can't, in that particular area will not be disturbed.
How do we make sure when someone buys that lot that they know that they can't disturb that area?
Well, it'll be on the final plat. And so it's their due diligence to follow that. Just to give you an example, up on Bella Vista, there were some areas up there that were, a lot of those lots had within their property, no disturb. There was some no build and then no disturb areas all within the private ownership. Now, we did have a accident, is the best way to describe it, on one of the lots. They went a little too far out, weren't watching. We did make them go back and repair that as best as we could on one of the lots, and actually turned out fairly good for, what happened. But when we did find that out, we went back and had them put that back. Now, that was because you had all those long, lava rock, how they broke into long sections
Calling their
up in
joining.
there. Yeah, thank you. Those they had to get those and get them back in as best they could.
Wow.
And line it up to make it look like it was the original. And so that's just an example of what happened there. And so we'll just keep an eye on, but they find out because they should be reading their plats when they do that, who's ever doing their plans or site plans. But
Well, I guess that's why I think, if the lot line followed the do not disturb line, that would be more likely that they would respect that and not miss it on their plot.
yeah. And I could see where in lot 4, it might be easy to do that if the applicant, if that was what you wanted to talk to them about and see if they're okay with that one. Lot number 14 is a little bit different because of the way it is a big enough lot, but it would have a really funny boundary line to it to get up and back and over that. Now they could easily say, take a line, on that where it meets at just above the 0.89 down to the other one at the end of the 137 and just draw a straight line there. Conceivably, yes, that could be done. This is the proposal, that's on here tonight. So,
Interestingly enough, didn't mean to cut you off, Drew, but Councilwoman, that was a lot of the discussion at Planning Commission. I sat through both of them and they were lengthy and they really went into the details about not disturbing those areas. And that's why they have the conditions, 13, 14, 15. But they really talked about that and shared the same concern.
But the question would be, would what happened in was it Bella Vista?
Bella Vista.
Would it have occurred if the lot line had followed the do not disturb as opposed to maybe not picking
Well, I
up
would
on
definitely hope not, because that would have been a real bad,
that egregious thing? Yeah.
mistake, because they'd been out into the HOA but it could have happened. People, again, sometimes, and it's just like, it's helping a gentleman a couple of weeks ago where, actually the council, we ended up having to come to you and they followed a particular property pin that wasn't theirs. And so, can we say nothing can ever happen? Well, I wish we could, but mistakes happen every now and then.
Would it happen less if the lot line were
Yeah.
changed? I mean, we're really asking the question, would it happen less if the lot line followed the do not disturb line?
I would have to agree that the probability would go down.
Okay.
Just by reasoning of law, it would go down. So,
If you pull this up on Google Maps, I was wondering about that detention basin.
it's going to be hard to find on our Google Maps, but I'll be more than glad to give it a try. At least per mine. I think some people have better Google Maps than I do, but let's not too far from the area right now. And it'll be kind of hard to show exactly where that detention basin is going to say fall, per se in this. But I think the rock shelving we're really kind of talking about. I'm going to try to pull up.
Draw is right there, kind of in the middle.
You can see a property line, and this is the Buchanan property below here. And so that rock shelf we're just talking about.
That's lot 14.
It's on number 14.
14.
So that means the detention pond's going to be down in this
Right there.
area somewhere, right here. If that helps you. So it'll be right behind, this home, it's 820 north. That kind of help you. It's,
Yeah.
again, being so far up,
During the discussion, Drew, there was some talk about the road base material being made out of the red chad so that it fits in a little bit better with the native soil. Is that, I don't see that as a condition or
I
a
didn't,
discussion.
I mean, in the minutes, I don't think I went through them. That wasn't part of this motion.
It
but
wasn't part of the
it's-
motion. It was
Doesn't mean
just
that it can't
discussed.
be, again, you folks vote on it too, but I just was going off of what was in the motion.
Well, I think that the neighbors on the opposite side felt like that if it were going to happen, that would be a little less intrusive if it was made out of something that would blend in a little better.
I wonder if the
What was
red
that,
might,
Councilman, one more time, if it was?
The red, there's a soil, it's called red chad, and it just is a mix that has red in it. It looks more like the native soil than just a road base that would have a tan or brown.
So they'd use that as the asphalt or the road base?
I don't believe it's going to be a.
no, it would just be
It's
it would be over that 24-foot wide.
Oh, down through the
Access.
drainage?
It's just a road base.
just
Oh, just over
down-
the drainage section?
Right.
Oh,
Yeah, let me,
Just that goes down the hill.
I got you.
yeah, he's talking in this
Yeah,
particular
down-
dotted area.
That's, I understand that now. That's-
And
First, I was
it's,
thinking in the road base. I
No.
was gonna say, what?
it'll be covered with asphalt, right?
Yeah.
Zion National Park.
You know, I can understand that, so it blends in and we don't see a scar there.
Right, yeah.
But that would be fine. Like I say, I went through
Mhm.
Commissioner Coates'
Right.
motion. It wasn't part of it. So I pretty much have to keep those as part of what the motions
Yeah,
are.
it wasn't part of the motion, but it was just
Okay.
a discussion point that,
And I wasn't at the meeting, so it's all news
that's
to
right.
me.
Here's vacationing, weren't you?
I was, so. And I never did get to 15. And this is one, and this is why this is a little bit different. It's good to point out here is number 15, the rock shelves located within lots number 10 and 11. So you can see in those, instead of, you can see the solid brown line until it gets to that property line, then it goes to the dash line. Be labeled as can be disturbed and changed to look different than the other rock shelves as identified on the plat. So they're just saying these particular rock shelves on this side, if the homeowner ends up moving them or needing to for whatever on the design of his lot, the planning commission was okay that this particular rock shelf in the dotted area is okay to be disturbed at that point. So that's part of that motion and amendment on that, and this is the updated plan. And so with that, I'll try to answer any questions I can because I did miss the one meeting, but I think I'm hopefully abreast of what's going on. But I think we've already had quite a few questions, but if there's anything else I
Drew,
can answer.
was there any discussion on lot 14 with as much, with the contours, the steepness and whatnot that we've got there? I just wonder how much of that is buildable space without tearing the whole hillside up.
Right, and I don't know if that particular lot was specifically addressed. 13 looks almost worse in some ways to me when you start
Yeah,
counting those
it's
contour
not
lines,
quite as
but
steep. We got 14 in sections there.
yeah.
It's pretty steep.
they might end up being walkout basements more than
When I
anything.
walked it, it looked like they'd be walkout.
Walkout type stuff.
They'd probably
So
be
that's, I
gorgeous
guess-
walkout lots.
Yeah, that was my concern, is if there is buildable enough space without. So if you've walked
That's a lot of rock retention to bring them up bad on grade.
that's what I was,
Yeah,
that's,
it'd be real
I guess,
costly to,
my concern was whether it's a feasible lot to keep in or whether probably more belongs in open space. It's non-buildable.
yeah. Or it could be the best lot in the whole subdivision if the design's right.
Well, it's just, like I said, it didn't seem like there was a lot of space
Yeah.
there to build on. If it was a little more flat, yeah, you're right in places, but that was my concern. Yeah, correct.
Are concerned about lot 6.
Probably not. That might end up being probably, if 14 isn't going to be the best lot, that might end up being the best lot. Because you can see it actually when those lines get closer and closer together, that's when it starts getting a little questionable, but there's not, I think they have pretty good, especially for as big as it is, it's almost a half-acre lot, barely under half acre. So it'll be yeah, and it is fairly flat when you see, especially that, the bubble going around the number 6 there. So.
Any other questions or comments? Questions for the applicant?
Is the applicant here? I just got a question on your lot 14. Like I said, I do have some concerns with that, especially where we've got a no disturb area coming into it and with the steepness of that.
Steve Howcroft. I do have a grading plan here. I think that will kind of help explain it if he can put it up on the screen.
Great. I've walked it too.
As you notice on lot 14, it is designed for a basement walkout. And it will work just fine. In fact, 14 through about 10 are going to be basement walkouts.
Scrolling to the north, if you don't mind, Drew.
When you get
So
to lot,
Are you planning on those areas just to degrade them, or are you planning on?
to grade them, sure. Level them as
You're
lots.
not gonna put retaining walls to it?
But we will where we need to.
Well, they will work these lines right here between 9 and 10. That will be required, to be retaining wall, a series of them. The same over here on 14, definitely be retaining walls between 14 and 15 just by subdivision code. Whenever there's anything over 3 feet like that between property lines, you'll have to be, so, being that it's on the property line, we don't require that. It's not required, they can kind of do what they.
Yeah, but so 9 through, what is it, 5 or 6 right there, 9 through 6 right there, where they are against that slope. I think something needs to hold the lot back from the slope rather than just doing a
Sure, where we
2
need,
to 1 or something like that, because that's
Yeah.
gonna be an area that nobody
where we need to,
maintains, where it's right on the edge of the cliff, and so.
sure.
I'd rather not see that scar, I'd rather have that retained.
And you notice we have the same situation on lots 1 and 2.
Correct.
So again, retaining wall between 2 and 3 will definitely be there.
There can be subsurface drainage on that for the runoff.
I don't know that we will need to have it at this point.
Lots to try to drain them to the street,
Yeah.
you think?
Yeah.
Okay, answers my questions.
Thanks, Steve. No other questions or comments? I'll entertain a motion. If you want to offer one.
I'll go ahead and make the motion that we approve the preliminary plat for Brookwood, located approximately 900 north and 600 west.
Can we include with that the lot lines be drawn to follow the do not disturb lines?
For the rock wall,
Not for
So you'd adjust your lot
lot
lines.
14 and lot 4.
it's 3 and, yeah, 14 and 4.
I'd be okay with that.
It's got a condition, number 14.
Talking about this area right here.
Well, and 5.
It doesn't go through 5. It kind of looks like it does, but it doesn't.
Okay.
It only is in lot 4.
Yeah, I'm just looking for consistency between the lot line and the do not disturb line, so that we make it simpler when you're the homeowner looking at those.
I'm fine with that amendment.
I'll second it then. What about the red chat?
We're gonna add to that,
Yeah, one.
the colored rock, the blended rock.
I think red Chad and then just reclamation, once the road's put in, to get it back to its original state as much as it can. That's what I would like to have added.
I'm okay with those additions as well.
I'll second those additions as well.
Ivy, aye.
Granger, aye.
Bellis and I.
Nice night.
Turek, and I suppose we probably ought to notice that we include all of the conditions that were listed as well.
Right.
Right.
That way it-
Okay. Thank you. You got that, Drew?
We'll get it.
Okay.
We'll have it talked about.
Right.
Fix 414, just make sure the lots take that. It's
So-
not supposed to be touched, just make sure they're not.
The lot lines are out. Yeah, yeah, exactly.
How they do it, you'll just be okay, like in 14, they may just come up and at the end, if you're okay with that.
It's fine.
I can see where 4, they'll just follow that line, it'll just be easier to do that. On 14, you might want to go up and do that.
It's fine.
Thank you, Drew. Item 8, we'll move on to final plats. A, consideration to approve the final plat, excuse me, for the Arroyo at Sienna Hills Phase 2, located approximately Sage Crest Drive, applicant Brennan Holdings, number 200 LLC.
Thank you. As stated, this is a request for the final plat, Phase 2 Arroyo. This particular part of the overall subdivision is proposing 10 lots, and the area coverage is 2.14 acres. Zoning at this particular location is the Sienna Hills PCD. The preliminary plat was approved back on March 12th of 2014. Staff reviewed the request proposal and finds that it does conform to the approved preliminary plat. The Planning Commission reviewed this request at their August 16th meeting. They unanimously recommended approval of the final plat for the Arroyo at Sienna Hills Phase 2 subdivision onto the City Council based on the findings and subject to the conditions that are in your report. And I'll be glad to answer any questions you might have on Arroyo Phase 2.
I know that when this came through Planning Commission, there was some discussion about the platting and granting the easements. Is that, I see that that's one of the conditions.
It is, but I had Kathy talk to me, and I guess they're going to take care of that with, I think they're going to file these things independently with the county recorder's office. And this is a note from Lester at Public Works, so he's going to be involved in that. We'll just make sure that that gets taken care of.
That was
I wasn't worried about bringing this out because they did say they had an alternative to be able to do that. And Lester was going to be fine with that. So we'll make sure that's followed through on.
But it takes a separate document to do
It
that.
will. They can do it in a separate, and I think that's what the plan's going to be. So, because I think they're going to be taking care of that, and Lester will be covered that way.
Mayor, if there's no more discussion, I'll make a motion that we approve the final plat for the Arroyo at Sienna Hills Phase 2.
Second.
Motion and a second.
Ivy, aye.
Granger, aye.
Bellis and I.
Nice night.
Turek, aye.
Thank you. That is approved. Item B, consideration to approve the final plat for the Arroyo at Sienna Hills Phase 3, located approximately Sage Crest Drive, applicant again, Brennan Holdings, number 200 LLC.
And I do apologize. This is one of those ones, and it gets kind of scanned in. It gets every once in a while flip 90 degrees. And so even if I turn it to fit on my screen, all it does is do this again to you. So we'll try to get through if there's any questions you have on it. And I think everything's pretty simple on this one. The applicant is requesting a final for the Arroyo Phase 3. And this particular phase of the overall project is proposing 46 lots, and the area coverage is 12.61 acres. This is once again zoned Sienna Hills PCD. The preliminary plat was also approved back on March 12th of 2014. Staff's reviewed the request proposal, finds it conforms to the approved preliminary plat. Planning Commission once again reviewed this on August 16th last week of their meeting. They unanimously recommended approval of the final plat for the Arroyo at Sienna Hills Phase 3 onto the City Council. Again, these were the same conditions, and this number 6 will be taken care of in that same manner. So I'll be glad to answer any questions if you have on phase 3 of the Arroyo.
Hey, Drew, just for the engineer on this, we try to catch these and bring these up when they come up, but just two that just stick out that are in the signature boxes for city recorder approval and acceptance by the Washington City, as well as under the approval of the Planning Commission, the Planning Commission of the Washington City. I think we can take the does out of there.
Yes. Just kind of point those. That's what Jeff, and again, we're reading it up and down, but the does on the city.
Yeah, ours mine flipped over okay.
Well, mine does, but it won't do it on here. We've done it
Okay.
before. I've tried it, and it,
Yeah, so
believe me,
look at
we've
the
done
top of
everything.
their signature boxes, if they got the from in front of Washington City, and as well as then in the description of it, it says right there, you can see City Council of the Washington, Utah. So if they'll just correct all those, they should be easy to catch. Then they won't irritate me every time.
Are there plans for that common area?
This particular one, it's probably going to be left in a natural state, but I hope the applicant's here. But that's generally what Sienna Hills has, is they'll have certain areas that just stay in that natural. But I don't know if this area, if it might have been touched, I'd have to go back. But most of them in Sienna Hills are left to be what was their native. So is Jim here? Yeah, you want to address?
Most of the area surrounding Sienna Hills, which is done by deed of dedication, will be left 100% natural. There's no disturbance in it at all. This area will be restored to its natural state. There's some disturbance in it. This is a transition between a very steep section. The road up along the school is quite a bit higher than the road down at the roundabout or cul-de-sac, and there's some 3-tiered rock walls in between those lots to back up. This is just a transition zone, so we don't have to put a bunch of walls in. But it'll be natural. There will be some.
Are there trail connections there at all?
Yeah, there's a trail connection you can see at the end of the cul-de-sac right there. Common area there. That's so people can get out into that open space. And then as you come back, there's another one that allows you to get into open space on the other side. Arroyo runs along a ridge line with arroyos on both sides of it. And so
is that close to the dinosaur track?
No, the dinosaur tracks are up by Casitas. They're quite a ways away from this.
So that active, Jim, you're talking about is between 78 and 77?
Yes.
The cul-de-sac, okay.
Yeah.
Down between 60 and 50.
Yeah.
Just from my own curiosity, since they were done together, why were they separated in separate phases?
It's because of the way Washington County Water Conservancy District has changed the way when you allow the builders to do the promissory note. These are sold to 2 builders. The 10 lots are sold to Coral Canyon Builders. The 46 lots are sold to Ents Homes.
Okay.
And they want to do the promissory note with the Water District, but the Water District won't do a bulk sell unless it's tied directly to a plat.
Okay.
So in phase 1, we had 2 builders, and then we just platted it once, but they changed their policy. So now I have to plat it 2 phases. You'll see Ladera at your next meeting, and it has 2 phases. We're building it all at the same time, but it's because of the Water District's requirements.
I love the water district.
I love the Water District.
We do.
If you want to show them that open space, I don't know if they're interested.
I'm part of that. I'm part of that.
That's the deed of dedication. It's basically that area between Grapevine and Sagecrest Drive. It's really pretty. There's a wash, a lot of rock outcroppings, and used quite heavily for people walking their dogs and things. I did see a tortoise today at the dinosaur tracks, so just for fun.
Yeah, I have some friends that saw a tortoise up Grapevine.
Yeah, lots of tortoises this year.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks for the tortoise update.
Mayor, barring any further discussion, I'll go ahead and make a motion that we approve the final plat for the Arroyo at Sienna Hills Phase 3, located approximately Sagecrest Drive.
I'll second that, Mayor.
Thank you. A motion and a second.
Okay.
Nice night.
Ellis and I.
Granger, aye.
Ivy, aye.
Thank you. That is approved. Item C, consideration to approve the final plat for Brio Phase 3B, located approximately Brio Parkway and Jenstone Way. Applicant Cole West and Reed Scow.
Be one of those same again. Muddle through. The applicant's requesting again a stated approval final plat of the Phase 3B subdivision within the Brio master planned area. This particular portion, this particular phase is proposing 33 lots and the area coverage is 7.38 acres. Specific location of the zoning is again within a PCD. This happens to be in the Brio PCD. The amended preliminary plat was approved back on August 9th by you, the planning city council, a couple weeks ago. This is the one that added those few lots that were colored in yellow, if you remember, 2 weeks ago. And this is in follow up to that. Staff's reviewed the proposal, finds it conforms to the approved preliminary plat. Planning Commission reviewed it last week at their August 16th meeting. They unanimously recommended approval of the final plat for Brio Phase 3B subdivision onto the city council. And it was a standard 5 conditions, but there has been a new update that I need to bring to your attention. When the original preliminary plat was done, all the lots were numbered in the 300 series because they just wanted to keep it because it was Phase 3. So they started them out 301, 302, etc. Now Phase 1 got recorded and had the original so many lots that were done. When that amendment was done that you passed 2 weeks ago, the engineer had kind of made a snafu on just by accident and relabeled all the lots that hadn't been platted yet. Started at just 1, not 300, and kept them all. So the developer found that, got a hold of me this afternoon, talked with the council Starkey on this. They want to get them back to the original 300 numbers. And so I just want to make note that we will fix that if the council approves this, but I would like to put the stipulation and our city attorney, Jeff Starkey, said it's okay to probably do that. So I'll just, if in your motion, you can just put that we'll approve it and they can put the original numbering system in the 300s, and we'll catch those all up and make them fit in if that is okay with the council. So that's the only correction we need to do on this. And so I'd answer any questions if you have it on what I just stated or on the final plat itself, either or.
There was some discussion about adding the conditions 6, 7, and 8. One was regarding open space. And then the language by the fire marshal, there was an emergency only access and those things. Were those ever addressed and added to?
That I'm aware of, because I don't know if that motion, again, because that meeting happened last week and with Kathy had her aunt pass away Thursday and had to leave, so wasn't able to get on the minutes of that. So
there was some
I'm not
discussion
aware of
about
any of
adding,
that, but I don't know if the motion carried that. I don't know if the commissioner's here that would remember that.
That's a different project. Okay.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, because this hasn't got the.
No, we'll talk to that one about that one in a minute, and I can address that stuff, so we're good. Yeah, this one I don't think had any extra things on it, so.
Mayor, I'll go ahead and make a motion that we approve the final plat for Brio Phase 3B, located approximately Brio Parkway and Gemstone Way, with the addition that they're going to change the numbering on the lots.
I'll second that motion.
Motion and a second.
Ivy, aye.
Granger, aye.
Ellis and I.
Nice night.
Turek, aye.
All right, thank you. That is approved. Item D, consideration to approve the final plat for views at Coral Canyon, Phase 1, located approximately Highland Parkway, excuse me, and Black Canyon Avenue. Applicant, again, Coal West, Reed Scow.
Thank you, Mayor. Again, a request for a final plat. This particular part of the subdivision is proposing 17 lots. The area coverage is 7.33 acres. The zoning at this location is yet another PCD. This is part of the Coral Canyon Plan Community Development. The preliminary plat was approved back on March 8th of 2017. Staff's reviewed the request and finds the proposed final plat conforms to the approved preliminary plat. Planning Commission reviewed this last week at their August 16th meeting. They unanimously recommended approval for the views at Coral Canyon Phase 1. And that's based on the findings subject to the conditions. And here's where those extra conditions were brought in. Easements of record need to be shown and abandoned if necessary as part of this plat. The amenity area needs to be shown as common area, and I think or a tract is what I put, and they did bring that up to and fix that for this. And finally, number 8, the secondary emergency access needs to be addressed and shown on the plat, whether they're going to utilize the trail or whatever the case might be. And I think there should be an exhibit that proposed that here. If you go back, and this particular exhibit shows that green strip will be that, and they, in fact, we were just talking about this with the fire marshal today, that they will be adding more than likely a 4-foot strip of asphalt and extending the trail to make that accessible for emergency purposes. So this is what we had hoped could happen. What did I say? Asphalt? I'm sorry. It will be concrete. I'm sorry if I said asphalt. That was a misspoken word. It will be concrete.
So that access is coming through where on the plat it says HOA tract number 17. Is that correct?
Yeah, let me go. It should be coming through, and it will. Wrong one. Yes, this particular HOA tract, it will be coming through there. There's a trail existing. My understanding, I think, is there right now, and that tract has been there for quite a while, and that's where it will come through.
So this emergency access exhibit this is recorded along with the plat, correct?
Yeah, because the trails are given to us at a given point. The city takes those and maintains those at a point. I'm almost sure this one, because it's been there for quite a while. I would be surprised if it hasn't already been given to us by back in the day when Sitla had this project, or Coral Canyon. Or some.
But it's being modified.
It'll be modified.
That's why I'm asking if it's
And
part
we'll
of the,
probably-
if
we
it's
may-
part of
yeah.
the plat or made recorded as part of it.
We'll probably have to amend that, because they gave us the trails just they were long, squiggly. They just followed the trail with legal descriptions and came to us. So if they do have to modify that, then we'll make sure that gets modified as well.
So Drew, and then maybe that's what you were discussing, but city manager pointed this out to me too, that in the, you go down on the specs on that below the exhibit, the emergency access exhibit, it still shows that green section as being recycled asphalt, or new asphalt. It doesn't say concrete. But I think it needs to say that. Read that.
I think, well, again, and I'm only going off of because what I was listening to this morning between Lester and the fire marshal. I don't think we want to go ahead, unless he needs that, but whatever they agreed is probably what's going to.
I thought it was concrete. I could be
Well-
wrong. I thought they could concrete.
It says the turning radius up here is concrete, that double square up at the top of that. Oh, no, it says new asphalt too. Sorry.
Yeah, read new. Yeah, the problem is it's still read.
Yeah,
new
everything's
asphalt. Let's make sure
reading
we-
asphalt. I don't see concrete on
Yeah,
any
let's
of it.
make sure we're
Yeah.
consistent with what it was. And I don't think Mike's gonna know.
Just
Well, it's
says
funny 'cause this-
concrete trail.
And that's what it says
Or
at this
existing
point. Now, it
asphalt.
may turn into asphalt at a point. I'm not.
Well,
See, because here the one says existing asphalt trail, and this one says existing concrete trail.
oh, it does say that.
I think the trail existing is concrete. It is asphalt through there?
It's not concrete now.
But I think,
thought it was
yeah, so you're
concrete.
saying it is concrete coming through this track then. You're
I
saying
gotta
then
go,
it,
probably notice.
That's all I'm saying, just need to be consistent, whatever that is.
Yeah, whatever the extension is, it needs to be whatever they're butting it to is probably the way to do that.
Pete Scow, the applicant. When we originally designed this, it was approved for the recycled asphalt. We got looking at it and I couldn't find a good way to marry both of them. So we started looking at putting concrete down the side of it. And then I'm actually looking at right now, rotomilling the whole thing out, putting the rotomill down as base and then relaying the asphalt at 14 feet. So we're looking at both options right now, and then we'll come back in. Either one of them is better than trying to just lay down recycled asphalt 4 feet along the side of the trail. It just didn't look good, and I don't think would support what we're trying to do.
Drew, do we know the location of the emergency only signs? I think that was kind of discussed. People to, I don't know if that was part of the original motion, but I know it was discussed in Planning Commission. There'd be emergency only signs to indicate.
They'd probably be at each end of this, I would imagine. So no matter what, they'll probably place one out here on Telegraph. And then they'll place one here at this track that it's only, special sign will probably be created for that.
Since this is the, I guess, fix to deal with the fire access for this phase, does it make sense to include a note on the plat that this phase also, or some phase, is required to maintain that access?
It probably is appropriate. I'm not.
At least the HOA needs to maintain that, right? Otherwise, it falls out of compliance.
Right. And we'll probably have to work that over before we do get this thing recorded. Because the concern I have, just in taking that train of thought forward, is if the trail has been given to us as part of the trail systems, we have this special circumstance, we're going to have conflicting.
Who's really maintaining it?
That's what I'm saying. Well, all the trails end up coming to us according to the Coral Canyon Development Agreement. Or this might be one we don't accept, or that the tract has to then,
Well, I mean, I understand maintaining a trail, but this is also their
their emergency,
their emergency
secondary
access
emergency
that allows
access.
them to even get the subdivision put together. So
It's something that definitely needs to be addressed. Absolutely. So
Do we need to table this until it's addressed?
I like that idea personally.
Drew, is the easement shown on the plat?
for this, no, it's not.
Does it need to be?
Probably not, because it's its own easement or dedication is what it is. I mean, well, we could go back. I think if they have room, they might, it might be somehow nice to put it on there if they can. But because it will have its own dedication, I'm not too worried about it. Especially if it's signed and labeled that way. And again, we don't want anybody using it except people who need to know that it is us, our crews, et cetera, our police and our fire department, and in any public works department that may need to use that under an emergency as well. It would just,
But it's more than emergency. I mean, the sign has to indicate also what trail access, bikes, walking, whatever, we need to indicate that too. If we just label it emergency, people may feel like they can't.
Can't
Just
use
an
it,
emergency vehicle use, right?
Yeah. Yeah, it's only for emergencies of vehicles. We're just trying to create something that on this trail, in case of emergency, we can get equipment up. So it's first and foremost a trail. Secondly, and then it has this alternative
Depending on what our signs
use.
say, they may
Yeah.
or may not get that.
So Councilman Bellis, I'm just trying to understand, is your concern whether we accept it as a dedication or not? Is that really the question you have?
No,
I think
not
it's
really,
concern is
but-
the maintenance.
The
of it,
maintenance.
that It's maintained
Yeah.
as emergency access, and who's going to do
Well,
that?
Well,
one
but
thing
that
if
still
it's a
goes back to
trail,
the dedication, because if it's ours, we would maintain it.
Well, I
And there would not
understand.
be a need for that.
But it's one thing if it's a trail that people are gonna ride, bike, run on, whatever. It's another that we've got to take a ladder truck or a fire truck down. And I mean, who maintained it? I don't know. I'm just asking the question because it's
No, I
their,
don't-
it's their requirement to get
Yeah.
access or fire access for their development.
Yeah, and I think I understand. I appreciate the clarification. I think there is some merit in that, in the fact that, let me see if I understand this. That even though if we don't take it, but if we take it as a dedication, we're responsible for maintaining it open. So if it's a dedication, I don't see that we need to do anything more with respect to it. But if it's not, then yes, we're gonna have to have something in there that says this is how it needs to be maintained. to
Well,
what level.
something needs to be put in place to maintain it. We maintain public streets,
Mhm.
but we've also got to maintain that we've also got to make sure that it's maintained at a level that you can get a ladder or a truck on it.
And if we had it dedicated to us, that would be all on us, so we would know it would be dedicated.
And it may not,
Or maintained, sorry,
it
correct.
may not be fair that it's all our responsibility because.
Well, that's why I'm asking what is the question is about the dedication or not. Because historically, now, but this is a good question because we have had trails in Coral Canyon that have, the intent of the development agreement is that the trails in Coral Canyon will be dedicated to us, but there have been some that I don't believe still have been dedicated because they didn't meet specs. Now, that's a different thing, but it still has to do with Coral Canyon. So I think the question is, if we've signed off on if we signed off that the structure of the trail meets our standard, then there wouldn't be any reason why we wouldn't accept a dedication. If there's no reason why we shouldn't accept a dedication, we would maintain it and that would be insured. Because there wouldn't be because the homeowners association wouldn't have any responsibility to maintain anything.
Yeah, but if it were just a trail, it would be a different width than if it's also the emergency access.
That's right, but we're accepting it not just as a trail, but under the cross-section that it currently is. Identified
As long as Public Works buys off on it that it's built sufficient to carry a truck.
I agree.
And they're okay getting it in the maintenance schedule of everything else, then that's fine. I just want to make sure that it's not forgotten.
Yeah, I think it's a good point.
We have it designed by AGC. We got it, so it's designed to carry an emergency vehicle.
And we can even look in to see if this one has been given to us yet too, because that might take the whole problem away, right there. And then we can discuss that at a future time, what's going to happen at that. But I'll look in and
What about just putting a note on this that one of the conditions is that it gets bought off on by Public Works, that it's sufficient to,
Public Works and the fire department
and
maybe,
the fire
or,
department, that they're fine with it.
and park. And no, well,
Well, I mean, I think that's a fair statement.
Yep.
Because ultimately, the park is going to have to accept the dedication.
yes, it is. So that's up to you. But like I said, that's why I pulled up this map and just sometimes they'll show, but this one's just, that blue border there is a tract. It's an HOA tract ownership on that I can see. But you can see the trail runs pretty much right through it. And but then again, sometimes when we do those dedications, they won't put them in, their own thing like that. So we'll have to find out who has ownership
How do
on
you
that.
want me to word it?
The Public Works approves it, I think.
Just say that this access is approved by Public Works, Fire Department, and Park and Leisure
Put in
Services.
there that hopefully we'll never have to use it.
Well, that's.
That should be the
goal,
motion.
right?
If it ever falls apart, it's not dedicated.
That's right.
So with the attempt of not butchering this one,
Let's
I'll
get
make a
close.
motion that we approve the final plat for views of Coral Canyon Phase 1 located approximately Highland Parkway and Black Canyon Avenue, with the condition that Public Works, Fire Department, and the Parks Department approve the emergency access on the trail.
I have a motion and a second.
Terrific guy.
Next night.
Ellis and I.
Granger, aye.
Ivy, aye.
All right, well stated. Move on to item E, consideration to approve the final plat for Majestic Sunset, Phase 2, located approximately Majestic Court and Noble Drive. Applicant Kurt Wiley, or Willie, excuse me.
Do we, on that last item, have any lingering concerns about, is it concrete or is it?
Whatever it is, it just needs to be.
It just needs to be we just want to match up, whatever the extension needs to match, whatever it's abutting to. I think we'll,
Okay.
yeah,
And your exhibits.
right.
I think you already stated the fire marshal has to approve it, so I think that's where your real standing is coming forward.
Hey, the applicant's requesting approval of the final plat for Majestic Sunset Phase 2. This particular phase of the subdivision is proposing 20 lots. The area coverage is 10.68 acres. The zoning at this particular location of the subdivision is the single-family residential 15,000 square foot minimum, referred to as the R115 zoning designation. This particular preliminary plat was approved back on September 28th, and that's not a misprint, 2005. But phase 1 has been in for quite a while, and so subsequent phases can come in without having to reapply. Staff's reviewed the requested proposal, and the proposed final plat does conform to the approved preliminary plat. The Planning Commission reviewed the request at their August 16, 2017 meeting. The Planning Commission unanimously recommended approval of the final plat for Majestic Sunset Phase 2 onto the City Council. That's based on the findings and subject to the conditions. This one has 2 extra, number 6 and 7, that the detention basin needs to be shown as common area, with an associated blanket PUE granted to the entire whole common area. It also needs to be noted that maintenance of this area is the responsibility of the HOA tract and/or the property owners, as referenced in condition number 4. And then number 7, the easement widths need to be noted on the plat as well. Those are the easements that surround each lot. Front is a 10, sides and rear are 7.5. So. But with that, I'll be glad to answer any questions that the council has on Majestic Sunset number 2.
Queens Court, supposed to be, so is it Queens Court or plural Queens Court? I'm sorry, I assumed Council Granger would catch that.
As in multiple queens or the queen's ownership thereof, is that? Or is it, that's right. Possessive or plural? That's what.
Well, if it says apostrophe, it's several queens who own the court. If it's apostrophe, yes, it's one queen, whatever they want, yeah.
So I guess we'll have to wait to see who moves in and see if it's one queen or there's.
Not knowing how many queens there are, barring any other discussion.
Who asked that?
Leave it to Starkey to stir it up.
Mayor, I'd make a motion, barring any
Thank
other
you.
conversation about Queens, to approve the final plat for Majestic Sunset Phase 2, located at approximately Majestic Court and Noble Drive.
A second.
A motion and a second.
Sure, guy.
Nice night.
Bellis and I.
Granger, aye.
Ivy, aye.
Thank you very much. We'll move on to item F. Consideration to approve the final plat for Horizon Cove, located approximately 257 North, 300 East. Applicant Prisbury Investment Company.
Thank you, Mayor. The final plat of the night for Horizon Cove. This particular subdivision proposes 6 lots and the area coverage is 1.099 acres. The zoning at this particular location is the single-family residential 6,000 square foot minimum of the R16 zoning designation. Staff reviewed the requested proposal and finds the proposed final plat conforms to the approved preliminary plat. The Planning Commission reviewed the request at their August 16, 2017 meeting. Planning Commission unanimously recommended approval of the final plat for Horizon Cove subdivision onto the City Council with the standard 5 conditions.
This is that subdivision that's been there for a long time.
It's been sitting there, the street's been in, everything's been in. There were a few things that had to get touched up, and we're working through and still finishing those up, but everything's been accepted by the construction drawings, etc. So this has been a long time coming.
All driveways are going to access off 250 North.
Yes.
lots, just making sure lots 1 and 6 won't access off 300.
No, well, I'm not sure how they have that worked out. Mike says they will not come off of 300. The voice from beyond. So everything correct is off of that internal private street.
Will you show us where they're coming off?
Would you?
What do you need to be shown?
Access, where the driveways.
250 north.
Well, all their driveways will come off of this 250 north, labeled the private drive.
Onto 300 east.
Yeah, then they will get on it to get onto 300. In other words, lots 6 and 1 have to turn into 250 north, then go into their properties. They won't have a drive
There's
access
no
off
note
of
on
300.
that. There's no note on this plat.
Show that.
It says that.
There's no driveway drawings there. We can't really.
Well, we never really put them on, but it's easy to say that a condition, you can
I would
add a
condition
condition
it. Yeah, probably a good idea.
that just
Put it as
says
a
that there will be
condition.
no, and it should be a note on the plat.
There were extra conditions for this.
Well, they didn't get passed on to me. Where were you? Go ahead. What?
So Ben Martinson, Planning Commission, we actually added that there needs to be the storm drain easement needs to be dedicated all the way out to where it's supposed to go, and the detention basin needs to be outlined on the plat as well. Those were some conditions we placed for the developer in our Planning Commission meeting. I don't know where they are, but
I was going to say, that's the question I was going to ask Mike, is where are we draining the storm drain out of this? Does it go clear through? It goes off the back and goes down and comes onto 200?
That little area, the 27.31, right there, there's a sewer. One of them goes off of that HOL2 and the other one goes off of 3, and they make their way out to the street. I don't think they're running side by side. I think they're on two separate lots.
I think the storm drain easement was supposed to go all the way down to HOL3 and then out.
Yeah, we probably could have that noted where it's.
Yeah, it won't be part of this plat because it's going across somebody else's property.
I was going to say, that's why it needs to be.
It needs to be
Yeah, it
noted.
needs to be noted on there, else we're going to run into a problem someday.
But yeah, you might want to look at the additional conditions we added to this. Just thought.
Again, those weren't passed on to me, so I apologize. Because again, I wrote this report before it ever went to the planning commission because I was gone and had to get it out for your packets. So I just wasn't made aware of any extra conditions on this one. So I don't know. Do you even?
They're in the minutes.
I think the best thing in this case would be a table this, and I want to get exactly how the motion was because that's how those. I don't want to.
And I think show those driveways there. We can have 3 bumping into 2 and 4 bumping into 5 and create a mess with driveways if we're not careful.
Well, they're in, the driveways are internal to a private drive. The ones going on at 300 would be, if we need to add that condition when it comes back through, but for the time being, I'll go ahead and make the motion that we table final plat for Horizon Cove.
I'll second that.
I have a motion to table.
We've got a second.
Second.
Did you second it? All right. Sorry.
It's okay. Ivy, aye.
Granger, aye.
Bellis and I.
Nice and I.
Turdick, aye.
Thank you. I had a senior moment. Apologize. That's approved to be tabled. Item 9, ordinance. Item A, consideration to approve an ordinance to amend a portion of the Washington City Code, more specifically, modifying regulations as found in Title 9, zoning regulations, Section 9-8A-6, 9-8B-6, and 9-8C-6 by adding a provision for attached awnings in rear yards. Applicant Robert Jensen.
Thank you, Mayor. As stated, This has been sitting in its 2-week holding period. It's now complete. And the item is ready for council action. Staff still feels strong about at least requirement on a 6-foot high block wall. I hope I had a chance to talk with a few of you in preceding last meeting. So getting back to that, I, again, just want to stress that. And I think I talked to a few about my concerns on that and see what goes. But the Planning Commission sent on a recommendation to you of approval of the amendment to the Washington City Code Title 9, Chapters 8A, 8B, and 8C, specifically Section 6, under modifying regulations. And that would be, of course, amending. You see what before you is rear yards would then read as follows, and on that. So be glad to answer any questions you might have in your 2-week time period on this particular item.
Has the verbiage changed based on our discussion from 2 weeks ago, or is it the same that we saw 2 weeks ago?
I uncapitalized the word not
Okay.
in number D of 2. Yes, we didn't put some extra thes.
So your recommendation for the masonry wall is just on the side yard, is that right?
No, it's already a requirement on a
On the
side
side,
yard
I mean,
awning. I'm asking to be
for the back.
consistent with it. And again, I can see in certain cases, but again, as I discussed, if we want to relieve where they don't have to do that, then just don't let the awning get as close. I just feel when you get too many of them, and if you have 2 people coming up back, it's the discussion we had with the side yard awning, is that the neighbor is the one who's going to be that's going to take the brunt of that, not you.
I guess it depends on the conditions though, right? If you got neighbors backing up to backing up, but if you've got a house that backs up to open area like over in Sienna Hills, I don't see why it.
No, I don't either. Again, we had that discussion. I totally agree, but for the ones that it does, I'm just concerned about it, the effect.
Rather than saying if you're going to do one of these in the backyard, why don't we say if it abuts to an adjacent property owner, you've got to have a 6-foot wall.
That's my concern too.
And I'm
You pay
okay
for-
with that, but I don't see the need to have a 6-foot
No,
wall.
that actually is a great alternative to that, is if it
Just in
does
those
not abut.
conditions where they abut to a neighbor.
Yeah, you've got a view lot and then you have to put a 6-foot wall.
Yeah,
up
no, I
and there's-
totally agree. And that's what I agreed with when we talked, and were able to think those things through, is that, but I just feel for the person, if you're right up against them and that's coming right within 2 feet and in there. And so I'm thinking of the neighbor, not so much the person doing the awning. It's the effect on the surrounding property owners.
So the section we're discussing, agreeing to, is the applicant proposed or down further?
We'll go all the way to the
Changes for the
end.
commission.
Yeah, whatever the commission sent on to you is what you're proposing. You could, I put in what I wanted that to be part of the report of what was proposed, and then through the meetings we had, this is what ended up coming out as a proposal to you. The recommendation was this. Planning Commission.
Well, the reason why I ask is because the 6-foot block wall isn't part of their verbiage.
No, that's why I say it was staff. We went through a tabling, because I recommended no recommendation. I didn't recommend denial, and I think I went through that in our public hearing 2 weeks ago with that. So, we went through quite a few things when it ended up coming back to this verbiage here, when the Planning Commission put that together in their meeting. Send this on to you folks.
I guess the only other issue I have with it is that where it says that
A2A is your
2A, yeah, as long as it meets, building code, and if it's within 5 feet, it's totally non-combustible. I'm fine with that, but if I was building one, I'd want something built out of a rough sawn.
You would just hold it back from getting to the 3-foot mark.
Right,
And
so we would just have to hold it back to a 5-foot distance from the property line rather than to say anything within the 20 feet has to be totally non-combustible. I think that's probably go a little too far.
it could even be more than 20 feet depending on how big your backyard is.
Sure.
And that's what we talked about in the planning commission. Someone could have a 60-foot area and they could, I don't know why they would, but they could.
As long as they maintain 25%.
Yeah, as long as it's only 25%.
Yeah, and the 25% is what's going to be again, that's going to be the nuts and bolts to the whole thing, is maintaining that 25%. So.
So do we need to amend any verbiage in that, Councilman, with what you're proposing there, as long as?
I think all it really needs to say is the shade structure and roof support columns must be in compliance with the International Residential and International Fire Code.
So you're just scratching.
Take out that it says must be fire rated and built of fire resistant materials.
Okay.
We just say they must be in compliance with the International Residential Code and the International Fire Code.
Yep. I'm fine with that. And then just changing the verbiage on the 6-foot wall to say in the conditions where it's backed up to a neighbor.
And where it doesn't, then.
Is there, if it's backing up to the neighbor, but they bring it in further, so it's not as close to the wall, then can they do that without a fence?
Yeah, we kind of talked about if they don't want to get any close, but again, we're starting to really, and I don't mind doing that, you know. I say comfortable, it would be 10 feet, you know, that if you keep it off 10 feet, and that's for those ones that have the big backyard, that if they don't want to build a block wall, even though they abut a neighbor, they just can't get any closer than 10 feet. Would probably be.
Probably ought to have that option.
Oh, I'm fine. Yeah, I'm fine with that option. Again, I'm just trying to look out for the neighbor, just having that thing come within, you know, the 3 feet and be an adjoining person.
Yeah. So maybe the language says is if you're closer than 10 feet, the block wall comes into consideration. Otherwise,
I guess we could just say something like this: a block wall is required unless you do not abut, have an adjoining property owner,
or 10 feet,
or 10 feet off of the property line. Then the block wall will not be something to that effect.
There you go.
I'm fine with that.
All right, before we have a motion, I think the gentleman wanted to address it. Come on up.
Well, the public hearing's gone.
I know, but he just wanted to make comment, correct?
I appreciate that, Mayor. So,
especially long-winded ones. So
hey, start the shot clock.
Let me just briefly say, I think, I'm sorry, Robert Jensen. My name's on the agenda, I think, the applicant. But let me just say, first of all, thank you. I think we're 95% of there as far as the applicant is concerned, and whether or not you choose a block wall. We appreciate where we've been, and I don't know that that's a make or break for us. I would, however, suggest that as you consider a block wall, that you consider what you're doing with your city ordinances across the board. You can build right now in the city of Washington a garage with an overhang that goes to the boundary line, no block wall. You can build in the city of Washington an accessory building that goes to the boundary. Has to have a rain gutter, has to keep the water on your side, but you can do it without a block wall. I would just recommend that if Washington City wants a block wall ordinance, that you make it uniform and that you create a block wall ordinance. If your awning comes out, and we have a picture of the awning we're talking about, comes out at a peak, the block wall doesn't have the same effect. If it comes out flat, it might. You have so many different circumstances. If you have a swimming pool, you're going to have people with a patio. I don't need a block wall. If I have an awning and I have a patio, people exactly the same as I would with a swimming pool, I have to have a block wall. There's an inconsistency there that I would just recommend that you not implement. Let your subdivision choose what kind of a block wall they would like to have as they implement the subdivision. If you have a tilted lot, The block wall is not going to have the same effect if it tilts up or if it tilts down. If as Council Member Belliston says, you don't have somebody behind you. There are so many different circumstances I would recommend, and the Planning Commission, as they considered this issue, also recommended that we not address the block wall issue, but that, you know, we pass this ordinance which deals with attached awnings, not block walls. Well,
I appreciate your comments and whatnot. I do like the idea that we probably go to a uniform thing. Personally, I like the idea of block walls because then we are able to retain that stormwater and issues that we're talking about coming off these accessory buildings. And so to me, it makes it much easier to, if we're going to let them come that close to the line, there's a way to keep it there if you're adjoining a neighbor.
It makes sense that we look at
the other
those
ones are
other
exactly, that's
buildings
what I'm
and
saying. My thought
garages
is
and-
if we go this way, that we come back with those others and fix them as well.
Let's fix it.
you'll notice that the ordinance does require the attached awning to be back 3 feet, where a little bit different. than-
Got it.
Hey, Drew, one thing, because there have been so many built without a permit, I think it needs to be restated in this, that a building permit is required.
Well, we talk about that, and again, I totally agree. I'd like to add that too, that because sometimes they just, if they don't see that, then they won't do it. So plus it's great ammunition for those ones that happen that don't get permits, and it's just one more thing
And I
stating
know it
it.
says
So,
otherwise in the ordinance, but I think it needs to be restated in this one.
there's nothing wrong with stating something 3 or 4 or 5 times in an ordinance. Just because it's stated somewhere, you don't want to always rely on that. So, and that's why I did the 25% thing. I want that to be known up front. You know, those things, it's just better to cover your bases 2 or 3 times. I'd rather have it said redundantly many times and just say, oh, well, it says it once and you should have went and looked through my, 3,000 page ordinance and found it. And I don't like that. So.
Builders necessarily, a lot of these people
No.
that want to do this, and they don't really know where all the cool pieces are. And I think we ought to make it straightforward.
So
for them.
I appreciate adding that it be, again, just reference in there that a building permit is, because whenever you attach anything to a primary structure, it always requires, regardless of the square footage it covers. So I appreciate having that too.
Mayor, if there's no more discussion, I'll make a motion that we approve the ordinance amending the portion of our Washington City Code modifying regulations as found in Title 9 zoning regulations, sections 9-8A-6, 9-8B-6, and 9-8C-6, to those that we have approved the verbiage, adding with that also verbiage that says that a block wall would be required if we have an adjoining neighbor and our awning encroaches within 10 feet of the property line. Also adding in there that a building permit is required, and fixing the portion that talks about the fact that this needs to meet fire and building code only.
In 2A, yeah, we'll scratch that.
Block wall, that'd be correct.
I'll second.
Okay, I have a motion and a second.
Ivy, aye.
Granger, aye.
Ellis and I.
Nice night.
Turek, aye.
All right, that is approved.
And probably some directions to our city manager to have staff look at where else we're not requiring block walls that might make this more consistent.
Yeah. Before we move on, never mind. I take it back.
All right.
Take it back.
We'll ask about it later. Item B, consideration to approve an ordinance granting a general plan amendment, request G-17-5 to amend the general plan text more specifically by adding a new category in the land use designation titled Planned Unit Development, applicant Washington City.
Thank you, Mayor. Again, this is a 2-week holdover. That time's complete. Hopefully this was okay. If you've had a chance to look, I added the PUD single family, multifamily, overnight rental, commercial mixed use, and PUD commercial to those as the possible zoning. I hope that worked okay. Again, the Planning Commission unanimously recommended approval of this onto the City Council. And again, we've kind of fixed that hope that you had. And I'll be glad to answer any questions that the council might have.
I don't have any questions. I have a comment that I'm certainly appreciative of this coming forward, and I think it's something that's going to benefit our community greatly moving forward. So appreciate your time and our Planning Commission's time in bringing this forward.
Likewise, I'm tickled pink.
Yeah, I'm too, seeing the need for it and how efficiently it was addressed. It's going to make it a lot nicer, I think.
It will help a lot of development and neighborhoods and everybody else to know and kind of have that. It is, I think, going to be a
good job.
Benefit. So excited about it.
Always, when we make changes like this, there's often an unintended consequence, and we'd like to hear what those might be if we need to make any further adjustments, because something as significant as this, that sometimes happens.
Yeah.
Usually sometime down the road, council will look back and say, why incarnation?
What were they thinking?
Yeah, no, I'm trying to avoid the why incarnations.
As
Yeah.
long as I'm gone before they start questioning all the moves, I'm good.
I'm very pleased to, if there's no other discussion.
I actually have a question for Drew. Okay. Are you going to be bringing these just individually forward as they come together, or
No,
as a group,
well,
or what?
we're gonna be talking about these next week a little bit. I'd like to get them in our discussion if that's okay with you, just to kind of see where we're at. They're pretty much all finished up. And so the plan is to let you kind of mull over those next week a little bit if you have any
You
discussions.
say
So we'll-
next week, do we have a meeting with the planning commission?
Yeah, it's a fifth Wednesday, so I think, I hope that's still the plan, that we were meeting every fifth Wednesday.
That's the plan.
So that'll kind of be it, that I'll get those out, and you'll be seeing those in your packet, and so we'll kind of work through there.
So without
Thank you,
any other discussion, I'd like to make a motion to approve an ordinance granting a general plan amendment requesting G-17-5 to amend the general plan text, more specifically by adding a new category in the land use designation titled Planned Unit Development.
Second.
Motion and a second.
Very kind.
Nice night.
Fellas and I.
Granger, aye.
Ivy, aye.
Thank you. That is approved. Item 10, public hearing. Public hearing for consideration to approve a zone change request, Z-17-26, to amend the Brio Plan Community Development by making changes to the site plan map, neighborhoods, the land use legend table, and verbiage in project plan text. The request is located approximately in the northwest corner of Buena Vista Boulevard and Main Street. Applicant Reed Scow, Jack Fisher. It's Cole West, isn't it? Or is it still Jack Fisher? Jack Fisher for this one? Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. As stated, this is a zone change request. It's kind of just amending our Brio PCD project. As stated, that we will just be discussing. I know there's some folks here tonight and some confusion went out, but the three items that were basically that's on the proposal tonight is, one, they're going to change the verbiage about churches being a conditional use permit within Brio, and then they'll be able to actually go in any land use designation. That's the one thing. The other thing is we're updating the site plan and the phasing plan exhibit. Each one of those has different maps, and I'll narrow down to those. And then we're also adding some extra land that was part of the Jensen Minor as the third proposal for this amendment. That's all that's on tonight for this particular amendment. So I'll just kind of go to those real quick. This particular is the concept site map. And again, we had to update some streets from the original when they went and laid them out. And as the project went together, some of the streets ended up changing. And so we wanted to get it updated on this map with.
Are these public, going to be public? Are they wide enough for public streets?
Well, most of these are. There are some private streets, but they've always been that way. It's just how they laid out some of them, because of whether it had to do with engineering or because of when they got on the property, it just wasn't best to go that way. We had a few, little bumps along the way, so just some streets got changed to make it more, user friendly with whether it be plumbing or because of topography. And so those were just, this map kind of updates those streets that we've kind of let go because we needed to at that time. And also the area that we're adding. This little pop out here, it used to run straight down to here. You can see where it comes over and back in. I'll zoom in on that. The applicant and the Brio development was able to pick up this extra land. This is just north of that Brookwood that you did, but it's the piece that was left up there. And so this was still some usable land, but not really usable for Brookwood to use. So how it
Brookwood plat, it got deeded to open space, right?
it might or might not have. I'll have to go check on that. But this is what the proposal is. We can fix all those things. They're just making this part of their.
It was showing you as open space, but now, or at least on prior exhibits that we looked at from Brookwood.
Well, this all came about, But this piece came available. Some agreements have been made. I don't know if any purchases. Then hopefully they did it that said upon approval of the, city that those things will take place. But this is what the proposal is to add this land area here because it is usable, but it'll be part of the backyards of the lots that abut this that come down. So
why are we going to modify this if we just approve Brookwood?
Well, this wouldn't be.
But further down.
Well, you don't have to. I'm just saying that you can do this and they'll work that out and amend those things.
Okay.
That's, you can do that. You can say this can be part of it, but, without it being on that, it'll just we'll just have to make sure that they end up with the ownership and the other one's corrected, I guess is the way to do that. So, but that's, on this proposal. So those are the items. So with that, I'll get specifically, the amendment is to update the Brio PCD, as I stated, with the two maps, the phasing map and the concept site plan that you see here. And adjusting those roads to meet what is currently in place and future changes that they wanted to do. And also the other one is to change and add the verbiage. A church use will be allowed as a conditional use within any land, and I double landed that, use shown on the conceptual site plan. This
Right
amendment,
now, it's up in the upper northeast corner, correct?
well, they're just showing that area set aside, but what this verbiage says that if somebody came and there was some land not used and they made a proposal to the developer that he could use that and do like anybody else does in the city. They just come to us with a conditional use permit in any one of their areas. They have designated this piece right here outright, on when you go up.
Stay designated until that point.
It'll stay that way, but another church could be built in here. Is all what I'm trying to say is what this language would allow is that if, say, somebody wanted to come and put a church somewhere right there for some odd reason, and take up some of those lots, they could then sell those, but it would have to go through a conditional use permit to say we're okay with the church going there, just like we do in any of our zones here in the city now. When any one of the churches come to us, they go in residential neighborhoods a lot. They come to us and propose a conditional use permit to put a church in. That's what this language does. They're just saying that any potential people that come, they know that that's a spot that's designated, ready to go. Still got to do a CUP because this language also ties that up, because it's anywhere in there that all churches will be a conditional use permit. It's probably a wise thing to do. So that's what this language is changing, is that it's just saying that because they weren't that way before in their PCD, that you could have just put one on there without a CUP.
Well, they could say, if it's anywhere other than the already designated area. But what you're saying is that they're going to have to
do a CUP.
Get it even for there, no matter where they choose.
Yeah, whether it goes in that light purple area or that goes in one of the yellow areas or any of the other areas, it's going to be by conditional use permit. So that's what that language does.
I just want to make sure modifying the language isn't going to vacate that site. I mean, at some point they'll have to come back and reapply and say, hey, we're putting a church here, not there, so vacate it so we can go ahead and put the homes there.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, if they wanted to come back for homes there, and then that's what this does, is this ties them to a church in that corner, but allows them to put a church anywhere in those yellow or orange or pink or, that they could come in with those through the conditional use permit process, is what this language says.
Does that negate the process whereby it's already designated?
No, but what would happen is if all of a sudden the church doesn't end up going there, they'd have to come and amend the plat and put it into a yellow or a darker yellow or no, I mean, that they'd have to amend that. Right now, in that particular area, that light pink in that corner, it's a church. But this allows them to put a church somewhere else. Say that one gets used up and they may need another church in there, or another church wants to come in. And if there's some peace, they would be able to do that in any of their other zones through the conditional use permit process. So that's the three items only that are on this proposed amendment. Now a letter did go out letting people know of the public hearing tonight. They showed a whole page of other stuff that's already part of BRIO. And some folks were disturbed that, they're changing that. No, they're only changing the sentence that talks about churches. The other has been there from basically day one when this was approved years ago, about townhomes being 2-story, et cetera. I just wanted to get that out, for you to know that, and for the folks that are here, that particular verbiage has been in there from the original approval of BRIO.
So the hearing tonight addresses the one sentence.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, tonight we're just addressing these things, not that somebody now saw something that has been there all along and didn't know it was there, unfortunately. So I just, so when folks come up, that's probably what happened tonight during the public hearing, is that all of a sudden they saw something that's been there a while, but they weren't aware of that when they bought into BRIO. So, but with that said, I think I told you the Planning Commission unanimously recommended approval of Z-17-26 onto the City Council, of course, with the findings and those conditions that you see on your report. With that, I'll be glad to answer any questions that the council might have. This is the page that went out to them that you can see it. Just making reference to that. I forgot it's right here. And again, the only thing that changed on this page was that sentence right above the table 2.1 zoning is the church use will be allowed as conditional use with any land shown on the conceptual site plan. That's the only change on this page that is being proposed. And then the last exhibit is they changed the phasing map here, and just go by the color. It kind of tells you roughly, what those are, and that those phases will come kind of in that order. So I'll be glad to answer any questions the council might have.
I was just wondering, it was a 3-2 vote. What was the negativity?
Let's, I may invite Commissioner Martinson to come up. It was him and Commissioner Hardman that had that. So it's been too many weeks, but I don't know if they stated what it was. So I don't know if he wants to come up and state what their.
Yeah, Ben Martinson, Planning Commission. This one was actually unanimous. I don't know why it got put 3-2, but it was unanimous. So not this one. The 3-2 was the Brookwood. This one was unanimous.
That's been hashed out. Okay. This one was unanimous. That was from the other.
On the wrong line.
It was unanimous. I apologize.
Yeah, it just picks up a portion of the other piece.
That's right.
In our
happened,
packets, it's kind of.
So I do apologize. This was unanimous because, yeah. So I'm sorry about that.
No worries. Any questions for Drew or the applicant? Okay. This is a public hearing, and any of you that are out there that have a comment, concern, or whatever on this potential change, we invite you to come up, state your name. We appreciate it.
I'm Mark Chambers, 714 Mill Creek Springs. Thank you so much for the opportunity to talk. We understand that this is just to add church as a CUP, but when we received notification, many of us on Mill Creek Springs discovered that our view lot which we were sold, but was going to overlook single-family, single-story homes, has been changed to townhomes and 2 stories. And we were shocked to see that. And even though we came and talked with Drew, it's been that way for a long time. The original stuff that we saw did not have that. Last week, we received new designs that are looking at rechanging that zone back to single family and putting the church down there and moving the townhomes back to the area that the church is. And we hope that zone change does come forward to you. The reason I'm here is to say, since we've received so many different conflicting stories and told and sold different things, that you please keep up your due diligence with Brio and Mr. Snow. And we do hope that this rezoning will come forward to you so you can discuss it. But as homeowners, we are very concerned that we're not getting the full truth all the time, and just want to make you aware of that. Thank you.
Thank you.
When was that?
Any questions for this gentleman?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Any questions?
When as Drew said that the original was not single family, when we bought it, one of the maps said future use, but if you looked at the original design of what Jack Fisher had put out, it did have it as single family homes. But I don't want to waste your time on that because you can't do anything about that tonight. So we understand that and know this is about the church, but please be aware of your citizens and the homeowners and keep an eye out for us. Thank you.
Thank you.
It was either August or October of last year, right?
No, that was the part that was done before then. So it's one of the 15s or 14s.
Okay, then it must have been
So
one of those that I was watching before I came on.
When did you buy your home?
March of 2016.
Okay.
hasn't changed. They didn't have an updated map, so you don't have whatever they say.
Okay.
Can I?
Absolutely.
My name is Jennifer Hemingway. I live at 997 North Via Del Medio. I don't abut the Mill Creek Springs area, so I'm not directly affected. But what I wanted to say is that we are a community. And so when things change in one part of the community, it affects all the parts of the community. And again, we're not getting any kind of updates about what's happening. And when I bought, I got a plat map. It didn't say it was subject to change. I assumed, wrongly I guess, that it was going to stay the same.
So you're in Brio?
I am in Brio, right. And I understand that the developer may need to make changes based on market conditions and what's selling and all that stuff. But I really think that we should, as homeowners who've already purchased into the community, be kept up to date on what's happening. And so far, that's not happening, you know? So I just wanted to say that. Thank you.
I appreciate that being brought up. That's probably a good note for us as a council as changes come forward to make sure maybe those are conditioned that the residents in there have been notified and been a part.
Oh,
So some good input. Thank you.
I know there's more of you out there that want to. I just know it. Come on out.
I'm Sherry Rust. I live at 654 North Mill Creek Springs
Sherry.
Drive. And we bought in October 1st of 16. And we were also told that we had a view lot, that there would be a road down below. Here's a map showing that. And single family. So when we were told that there may be a 10-foot and a 2-story, these are our homes. These are our life savings that we put into it. So it's frustrating, you know, that's why we got all upset, because here we were sold a certain thing and then it's changed, or it was different when we bought it. So
Now, what street are you on again?
Mill Creek Springs. It's right there right there in the yellow at the bottom, where the pink is.
Okay.
We all live on that yellow strip, right backed up to the
Okay,
pink.
so you back up to the red
Yes.
on that map.
Yes.
Okay.
And so, you know, I agree with all of who's spoken that, you know, we are doing things in good faith. We're buying in good faith that what we're being told is fact. And then when it turns around, not even a year later, changed but mainly the condos and all of that, that's kind of huge. Anyway.
One question while you're there. It sounds like from previous discussions that there is some discussion of possibly the church moving down into that. I suspect that part of that's what's driving the verbiage that we're seeing tonight. Do you have any concern with the church moving into
Not at all.
that?
Not at all. And I don't know a lot of, this is kind of my first, but from what I understand, it has to be single-family homes where a church is located. Is that true, or can they be condos?
I don't think it necessarily dictates that, no.
Okay, can be
So-
either.
The church can be located in any residential zone.
Okay.
Not the opposite of that.
Yeah, what this verbiage
Okay.
tonight would do would make it much easier for them to move that church around in places by just going
Correct.
through a conditional use process rather than changing the CUP process.
Okay.
And
Yeah, and
so
I don't think.
That to me
we
tells me
have
there
a-
probably is some talk of some things going by the mere fact that it's verbiage to us tonight.
Okay.
So I wanted to make sure it wasn't a concern of yours that all of a sudden that church gets moved down there very easily and you're saying, just a minute here. I don't want that either. So that's
No,
why
no, I personally don't mind that at all.
Okay.
It's the condos that, you know, the two-story that would block
your views.
everything, even mostly the sky, you know, kind of. So thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, neighbor Susan Bramwell on Mill Creek Springs Drive as well. And I object to having a church built in my backyard, basically. We all paid, and we're told that they were view lots. These are going to obstruct my view. There will be cars parking, it will be loud, there will be bells possibly. They had sold us a piece, showed us plans. We are fine with the church on the property and would love to belong to one, but I object to it having it in my backyard. And I would like to get what I was sold and told. We paid premiums for the view lots. They shouldn't take our view away.
What's your address?
696 North Mill Creek Springs Drive.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? Developer, Reed, do you want to? Okay, any questions for the developer?
Sounds like your marketing materials are a little out of date.
Do you have a response that you want to give to these people?
I really read scale with the developer. I can understand everybody's concerns, and I hope they can understand our concerns. We've spent $24 million getting this thing where it is, and that's where we're at. We have plans for this place, and if we throw something in that doesn't fit, doesn't work, doesn't look good, we're not going to sell homes.
Well, I understand that, but this change to the townhomes was done 2 years ago.
Right.
And some of these folks bought last year.
Right.
So I can understand why they're feeling like it's a bait and switch because the marketing materials are out of date, right?
And I don't know. I have nothing to do with the salespeople.
Well, it's maybe a good thing for you to follow up on because if I bought a view lot, I'd probably pretty upset if it suddenly wasn't a view lot. If you didn't tell me it was a view lot and I thought it was a view lot, it's kind of like living next to the turtle fence that keeps moving where I live. Now, this, was not well informed about where those lines were. Then that's their problem. But if they were told something specifically, that probably needs to be reconciled.
you. Anybody else?
Mayor, I'll go ahead and make the motion that we close the public hearing.
I'll second the motion.
Have a motion and a second.
Aye.
Ranger, aye.
Ellis and I.
Nice and I.
Turek, aye.
Okay, the public hearing is closed and the decision will be made in 2 weeks. Oh, end of September. Oh, that's right. We have a week off. Okay, so it'll be 3 weeks,
Will be the
5 weeks. Wow.
The fourth Wednesday in September.
Okay. Thank you, and thank you for your input.
Thanks.
Item 11, report from the officers from the assigned committee. Anything to report?
Mayor, I sent out some information to the council today, just concerning, come out of our MPO meeting, just concerning every year we have to go through a public process with our TIP, which is the funding allocations for future projects. This year we did get, usually we don't get any response back. This year we did get a response back, which is what I shared with you, partly because 2 of the items that were on that response were in our city, one being Merrill Road and the other were being out of the Purgatory area. And as part of that response, or part of that I sent you today, also was the response back from the MPO to this person. So you can see what our response from the MPO was back to them. The MPO did go ahead and approve the TIP projects, even with this response in it. It's pretty self-explanatory. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer.
How long was the comment period that she seemed concerned about?
It's a 30-day comment period, but it was noted as part of the group that going forward, we will extend that comment period. We'll go out earlier and open it wider and do it with more advertising on it, so more information is out there for people. Yeah.
So in acknowledging that maybe they could do it a little
correct
bit better,
yeah,
does this particular issue need additional comment time?
This one did not. It was approved as was, but it was noted that futuristically we need to do a better job with that, and that MPO will do that. So, good comments. Also, unless Councilman Bellison wants to cover our MP11 project, our committee, we met there for our first meeting last week. Our next meeting is the open meeting coming up a week or next Tuesday on the 29th. I do have some flyers here that I would love for us to spread around our neighborhoods and do all we can do to get as many citizens to stop by that and have input. It isn't just concerning the study of the off-ramp, but anything between 10 and 13, which includes problems in 10, and saying we need input as part of the scoping process, is saying where are our problems today and what may we do to fix those. So ideas of fixes, we welcome those. We also welcome problematic areas of people saying, hey, I can't get in or out of Walmart. I can't get in and out of Albertsons. Those types of issues. We welcome those.
I do know that I received a postcard, and my father's received a postcard.
Yeah, they
so
have some mailers
they're
coming
mailing out.
into the downtown area and I think a little bit into the Green Springs. I don't know how far it went, but we would like to especially have our fields, our Coral Canyon, Green, all of our community representative.
Yeah, they didn't have funding to send it to every single residence in the city. But they're sending it out to especially the heavily hit areas.
So we'd like to have especially input. One of the areas is that you know, I look at our fields people and we impact either 300 or milepost 10 exit coming out of those fields, one or the other. Generally speaking, we come through one of those. And so we should be involved here and have a say in what futuristically may happen in those, because it's going to impact us somewhere with that. So. You bet. This is going to be held at the Washington Elementary School, which is up on 300 East and 300 North. It will begin at 4:30 in the afternoon and go until 7:30 in the afternoon. And it's kind of an open house forum, so you can come and go as you need to. There'll be a lot of information available there, as well as we want a lot of input. There'll be places to take input. There actually are a couple of times set aside from 5:30 to 6 p.m. There will be an open mic to where you can make verbal comments, and they will have a court reporter there taking those to become part of the record. So if you'd like to just come and, rather than writing or inputting something, your comments, you want to come and speak them, come from either 5:30 to 6 or from 6:30 to 7. Those will both be open mic periods of time, and there will be a court reporter there who will make notes or take notes of that to enter into the record. Everything that's inputting here basically is taking the scope to say, is there really a need for, or where are the needs for futuristic traffic issues here? And so that's really what we're trying to gather is where the needs are and ideas of maybe changes that can help us.
Anybody else?
Mayor, I just want to give a short summary on what we've been doing with Days of 47 and 24th of July. I met with two different church leaders representing two different stakes in our area and visited with them and kind of discussed what we had discussed previously in regards to what the city's role would be and what the church's role would be in those things. And I think that we have come to the agreement that the church probably would take the lead in organizing because we have that infrastructure, and that the church would be very willing to help with the parade and with the booths and stuff on the 24th. And I think that it's a great start. I think that we've got people that are very willing to jump in and get involved, and like it has been, and keep that tradition alive and doing well. So we got other things coming. And then one last thing is had a meeting with the community center director and managers, and others were there. Mr. Carter was there, and it was just amazing to me. And I know we won't discuss what we discussed there, that things are coming, but I was so impressed with the managers and how involved they are. And they brought some concerns, not really concerns, but they felt like they had some things that they could improve, but then they brought solutions to the table too. That was so impressive. But it was very nice to sit down with them and get to know them better, and to hear their ideas about the community center and some great improvements that are coming, I think.
Anybody else? City manager report.
Thank you, Mayor. Let me just update on a couple of projects that we got working on. We are going through our water master plan final review. So, within the next couple of months, that will be coming to work session for your review, as well as our irrigation plan. We would suspect probably maybe in October that the irrigation plan will begin its process of at least coming to you and starting having some discussion with the council with respect to that. Our 1100 East sewer trunk line, we have a pre-construction meeting on that this week. The Fairway sewer line, for those of you who are up in that area and seen that project going on, that's about 75% complete. The Gypsum Basin Rehab Project we'll advertise in September. Let me explain this a little. So on 3090 South and Washington Fields Road, we'll be conducting our warrant study. Our warrant study, of course, is the study we do on our intersections and roadways to determine how much they're used, any challenges, and then, of course, if we have to provide any additional mitigation. We usually wait a little bit. I'll explain this because sometimes the public doesn't know, and especially as schools started in that. It's a warrant study that will always drive or dictate primarily our additional enhancements, whether there's traffic signals, whether there's other type of modifications we make to the road. And it's important that we try to stick as close to those standards as possible. We usually will wait until things settle down after school starts, because usually first week or two, you'll find a lot of parents taking at that time. And so it usually isn't a really accurate count on the warrant study. So, but we do that on all of our intersections. We do that on not just our intersections, but we also, even when it comes to stop signs and other things, we really try to follow a very logical and rational process by which we determine those items. But 3090 South and Washington Fields Road, you'll see that out there, and we'll be looking at that come September. Washington Parkway, it should be of interest to anybody, again, with questions about traffic, transportation, and circulation. Washington Parkway, of course, is what I'm talking about from the Washington Parkway interchange up to the Green Springs area. We are continuing to work on that, looking at the dedication plat and funding options. And that's just, again, part of the many solutions we're trying to find for our traffic circulation issue. So that's continuing to work, and I'm hoping that, in the not too distant future, we'll be able to have some discussion about where we're at on that. Downtown storm drain project, phase 2 will be beginning. That's between 200 East and 300 East. Again, those are the roads between Telegraph and I-15. And then after that, we'll begin with phase 3, which is 200 West to 300 West with those same roads there, approximately 5 blocks. And then with regards to leisure services, we have surveyors working on the Warm Springs area, the Boilers area. And again, part of what we're working on right now is that property swap with Vol Ventures so that we can line up that access with the Mill Creek area right across the road. And of course, they own that, but we're working on surveying it to get that. They've been very easy to work with and very willing to make that swap. We're just working through the technical part of that. Other than that, Mayor, I think that's the big projects.
Any questions for the manager? If not, there is a need to move to a closed session to discuss purchase, exchange, or lease of property.
Mayor, I'll make the motion that we close our city council meeting and move to a closed session to discuss purchase, exchange, or lease of property.
Second.
Maybe I.
Granger, aye.
Phillips and I.
Nice and I.
Turek, aye.
All right, take a 5-minute break.